Research creates benefits and risks to both the researchers and participants. Benefits include things like new information or approaches, an academic credit for a student, professional recognition for a professor publishing articles, or the evidence to help solve local problems. But there are risks too, particularly for research participants. In some types of medical research, there are physical or health risks. Psychological and emotional risks can stem from being uncomfortable, for example, by being asked to discuss traumatic situations. Social risks arise if a participant is asked to reveal sensitive information that might damage their reputation. The general guideline is that risks should be minimal and normally less than the risks or discomforts someone might experience in their daily lives. Researchers have the responsibility to reduce risks and ensure research participants understand the potential for any foreseeable risks. The Tri-Council Policy Statement, Ethical Conduct for Research Involving Humans, outlines the principles and guidelines for research with humans. There are three key principles: respect for persons, concern for welfare, and concern for justice. Respect for persons focuses on someone's right to make free choices and be informed about their participation in a project. Concern for welfare means that researchers must protect their participants, including minimizing risks to them by considering their perspective throughout the research. Justice involves treating people fairly, equitably, and being aware of any power imbalances. Universities oversee the ethics of research studies involving humans through a research ethics board. Before a research study that involves human participants begins, you'll need to submit an application to them for approval. While the exact protocols vary from university to university, they all must meet the Tri-Council standards. Tri-Council provides a useful online tutorial about their standards. Common ethical requirements include asking about potential conflicts of interest, pre-existing relationships with potential participants, how participants will be recruited and compensated in the study, and how any data that is collected will be treated and stored. Undergraduate students carrying out research with humans that is part of a course or academic project are also expected to obtain research ethics approval. Depending upon the circumstances, your application might be reviewed by a departmental committee that reports to the Research Ethics Board, or your instructor may have applied for an approval for the entire class. You'll need to ask about expectations in this regard. A letter of informed consent is normally used to inform people about a study's purpose and any associated benefits or risks of being involved. Your university will likely have an informed consent template from which to develop your letter. These letters provide information so that people can decide whether they want to take part in a study. Participants should freely give their consent. They should not be pressured or misled to participate, and they should understand what the research entails and any foreseeable risks or benefits to them. Participants should know how the information they provide will be treated, whether their answers will be recorded, and whether their identity will be kept confidential. Even if participants give their consent at the beginning of a study, they always have the right to refuse to answer any questions or withdraw from the study. If this happens, their data would need to be removed. Privacy refers to a participant's right to control their personal information, their thoughts and opinions, and how that information will be used. Confidentiality means the information participants provide must be kept safe. Project partners need to have measures to prevent participants' data from being stolen or misused, such as storing files in a locked cabinet or computer files on an encrypted, password-protected server or computer. Information that has the potential to identify an individual has to be treated carefully. The easiest way to protect participants is by collecting anonymous data. You can take steps to anonymize the data, including using participant ID numbers instead of names, or removing key demographic characteristics. Community-based research involves collaborations between communities and academic institutions, and, because of that, perhaps requires an additional guiding principle for research ethics, namely, respect for community. Ethics in community-based research requires us to understand the community and demonstrate that respectful relationships exist. This means paying attention to power differentials, seeking culturally appropriate and respectful research practices, and managing conflicts of interest. It also means working to include affected stakeholders in shaping the research. So, community-based research ethics applications might need to move beyond traditional university expectations to develop ethical guidelines that all project partners can agree to. Because community and campus partners often take on a variety of informal and formal roles with participants in a research project, it is important that a memorandum of understanding recognize and navigate ethical dilemmas as they arise. Community partners may have formal or informal processes for reviewing the ethics of a research project. For example, school boards will review any research with their students. And folks in Waterloo have established a not-for-profit Community Research Ethics Office that works with researchers who are working with community organizations.